Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. I'm your host, Professor Sides, and for the latest updates, information, and picks, you can follow me on Twitter at Professor Sides. Today is Saturday, May 21st, 2022. This episode covers today's best Major League Baseball bets. I'll briefly touch on the remaining games at the end of the show in extra innings. In case you're new here, I built a mathematical model for win probability, hitter and pitcher projections, and analyze weather data in order to make one pick and one pick only for every game played Monday through Saturday. That doesn't mean that I recommend you do the same. I'm just giving you the information as to what I like the most and where my head is for each matchup. As you go through the plays, remember that there are no locks in gambling, so we'll give you our loves, likes, and leans to help you decide which picks you might want to play and how I recommend scaling wagers. With that in mind, please understand that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as I'd like to say we'll be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Yesterday, the A plays did us well. Missed out on the Cubs. I think we got the other ones, though. So a good day for the A picks yesterday. Got a lot more of those today for you here. Before we get to that, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free and the only way to ensure you don't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. Share with a friend if you know others in the game. Hit me up on Twitter or drop a comment if you're on YouTube. I love those and try to respond to as many as I can. And of course, I encourage all my listeners to have multiple sportsbooks in their portfolio to shop around. That's extremely vital in order to get good prices. There's a couple of these that I recommend that have dime lines on MLB games. Reduce that juice. I think that's really helpful in trying to stay profitable for this baseball season. The links are in the show's description and on the website, www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/sportsbook. Starting off here in the afternoon, 2:20 Eastern, first pitch. Supposedly, Diamondbacks at the Cubs. We might see a late start in this one with weather coming through Chicago. Either way, it's going to be a chilly one for Madison Bumgarner and Justin Steele. Upper 50s, mid 50s, maybe low 50s by the end, depending on how much of a delay we see. Winds blowing in from left center in the 5 to 10 mile an hour range. Model says Cubs minus 119 is the right number. I really debated Diamondbacks plus 125. They've taken the first two games of this series. I think Diamondbacks plus 125 makes a lot of sense. I think you got a lot of value there. I have Steele as a little bit better of a pitcher than Bumgarner, according to the model. But again, the model is taking into account previous year's data as if nothing has changed. I've mentioned this before with Bumgarner. What he did coming into 2020 and 2021 is different. His velocity is just different all three seasons than this year. So I think he's better than the model realizes. So in reality, I think Diamondbacks plus 125 offers even more value than the model realizes. So I like the Diamondbacks here to win this game. If you don't trust the Diamondbacks bullpen, which I definitely don't, you could look first five on the Diamondbacks. I think that makes a lot of sense too. Game total of 7.5. If you don't trust the Diamondbacks offense, I think you take game total under. I think there's a lot of good ways to look on this one. I eventually settled on Cubs team total under 3.5 at plus 114. If you're at a book that offers whole numbers, you might be eyeing an under 4. You might be having to lay a price like minus 110 or something. I love that one as well. Again, you might push, but you're less likely to lose that pick as long as you're not having to lay too much juice. A lot of good ways to look. I couldn't quite get there on an A pick with this one. It's definitely a B plus pick. I couldn't quite get there on an A pick just because that Diamondbacks bullpen, I just don't completely trust it. I think first five Diamondbacks makes a lot of sense. That's also kind of a B plus pick as well. I think game total under makes a lot of sense. Like I said, a lot of ways you can look. The official pick that I'm going with is Cubs team total under 3.5 at plus odds. B plus grade for me on that one. Almost an A pick. There's just a few things on the board I like better today. 3:07 Eastern first pitch. Reds at the Blue Jays. Hunter Green versus Alek Manoah. Model says Blue Jays minus 218. So at the prices I'm seeing now, might be a slight bit of value on the Reds. A number like plus 220. If I was looking Reds, I'd also consider first five on the Reds just because of the fact that, again, that bullpen isn't very good. I have noticed that the Reds have been more 50-50 in their over-under splits. to some extent, it's a little bit of the number catching up to them, but to some extent, I think it's just they had a crazy streak where their offense kind of got hot and their bullpen was falling apart. It was a lot of fun to ride those overs, profited a lot off of those. And now they're kind of getting back to more normal baseball. Their offense has kind of gone back to, below average is what we expected. Their bullpen's kind of gotten back to still not good, but not, completely horrid, right? As we talked about this, the same story with the Reds, right? They're not going to win 80 games this year, but they've at least played better recently. They hung in yesterday with the Blue Jays, as we got some good plus odds on them last night. Lost 2-1. So, anytime you have a one-run game with the plus odds we got yesterday, I think it's a solid investment. It just didn't pan out for us. That's okay. All of our plus odds picks aren't going to, but if they're hanging in there, that's an encouraging sign going forward. I think kind of a similar picture today. I think the Reds offers a little bit of value. Manoah is very good, but I just think the number's a little bit out of hand. And if you see another one-run game, you'd much rather have a plus 220 in a one-run game than a minus 245. Instead, though, I'm going to go first 5 under 4.5. I love this one. A pick for me. The fact that it's at 4.5, I think this number should be 4, not 4.5. I don't know if it goes there or not. That's just where I think the number should be. In general, the number where I think the number should be, it probably ends up getting there maybe 2/3 of the time, but not always. So you never know what's going to happen with the numbers, but I think this number is too high. Green obviously has potential. We've talked about this. Not someone that I project to be fantastic today. Obviously, going forward in the long run, I think he will be, but he's got some potential. This Blue Jays offense can be shut down, as we saw yesterday. The Reds offense can be shut down, as we saw yesterday. Manoah is a great pitcher. So I think 4.5 is just too many runs for this one. A pick for me. It is a hitter's park, but I think these two pitchers are good enough to overcome that. I think we see a similar game early as we saw yesterday. As the game goes along, I don't expect Green to go maybe more than 5. And so as it gets into the Reds bullpen, it's a little bit more of a question mark. As much as they've been, again, okay lately, they're still not a good unit. So the later innings are more where I'm a little concerned. So I'd want to go first 5 on this one, whether it's the under like I'm doing, or if you're looking at the Reds for an underdog play, take your money, get out of Dodge, and don't have to worry about the end of it. 3:10 Eastern first pitch, game 1 of a doubleheader between the Mets and the Rockies. Carlos Carrasco versus Germán Marquez. Game we briefly mentioned yesterday, but knowing that it wasn't going to happen, I tried to go through it as quickly as possible. Weather-wise, there's still a little bit of a concern here. Not so much for the precipitation. If there is a little bit of rain, that's just kind of insult to injury on this one, but more about the fact that it's going to start off and be 40 degrees, and they've got to deal with all the snow that came through that area yesterday, last night, overnight, this morning, whatever. It's doable. It's kind of a mess up there right now. So it's a situation where they might just say it's nasty and it's a lot of work to clear all this out. Let's just do this later. My hunch is they play this simply because it's a team in a different division. So the Mets are not making a return trip to Denver. And if they don't play today, they maybe can try to, if it was awful, they could try 2 tomorrow and then try another one, on another time the Mets are going out across the country. But the off days would have to line up. So it seems dicey. So my hunch is they try to at least play today, and even though it's going to be nasty weather, you just never know on that one, though. So obviously just pay attention to Twitter, pay attention to whatever weather updates, postponed updates that you're looking for, especially if you're a DFS type player. If it does happen, again, I think it does, it'll be cold, no real wind to speak of. So definitely pitcher's weather, but I think it's reflected fairly well in the total of 10. If I had to say, I'd probably make this total more like 9 to 9.5. So I think there might be a little bit of value in the under, but not a lot. Not a lot here. So it's one that I'd look that way. Instead, I'm going to go first 5 Rockies at plus odds. And it's an A-grade pick for me. The model thinks that the Mets should be barely favored in this one, not the numbers that we're seeing. And I very rarely take first 5 sides, but I'm doing it on this one just because the fact that I'm not sure how deep Marquez can go in this game. I like him in the cold weather, and I don't really like that Rockies bullpen. And so I kind of just want to avoid that. Again, as I mentioned in the last one, get our money and get out of Dodge. It might tie, and that's okay. I don't really like playing the run line first 5 on this one because, as we know in Coors, the scores can get kind of crazy. So I don't really want to lay odds and hope for that tie. If a tie happens, I'd rather just push and move on. But it's a situation where there's a chance either team's up like 5-1 after 5. And in that world, I'd rather just have the plus odds. I think it's just a very much of a toss-up situation early on. Plus 105 on the Rockies, I think offers a lot of value. So it's an A pick for me. You could also go Rockies full game. You're getting even better odds there. You're getting better odds because the Mets bullpen's better than the Rockies bullpen, straight up. So I'm taking a little bit worse odds to be done after 5, but you could take full game odds. I think that makes a lot of sense. The Rockies have been a very frustrating team, but they still are a better team at home than on the road. They're a team I don't ever really want to back on the road. Here, though, they're at home, of course. Also, again, another angle you can look, maybe under 10. It's not one I love, though, but it is cold enough that 10 seems a tad high to me, if not a pick that offers a ton of value, just something to keep an eye on. 14 Eastern first pitch, Mariners at the Red Sox. Chris Flexen versus Garrett Whitlock. Warm day in Boston, mid-80s. Winds will be mostly across, maybe a little bit more out to left field at the end of the game. So potentially some wind aid at the end of the game. 10-mile-an-hour winds there early on, being across probably won't affect things whatsoever. Model says Red Sox minus 142. So the model thinks there's a little bit of value on the Mariners plus 146. I don't trust it. I'd rather back Garrett Whitlock than Chris Flexen any day, unless I'm getting just some crazy value. And plus 146 on the Mariners isn't enough. So you look at that, and the model might say a little bit of value on the Mariners, but I would need a price like plus 160 before I really felt confident about my investment in the Mariners. Again, there's a price on every team that you say this is a good price. There's a price on every team that's a bad price. Plus 146 isn't there for me personally. The model says so, but I just don't like it. Instead, I'm going to go Red Sox team total over 4.5. The odds I locked in, I believe, were minus 119. A pick for me on this one. We've seen these games be high scoring. I'm always talking about Fenway. It's just a massive hitter's park. I don't trust Chris Flexen, and the Red Sox bats have been going, and it's a warm day. I mean, it's just a recipe for success for us. And as much as we've seen some teams really struggle with the new baseball, and the Red Sox being one of those early on, as of late, they've gotten it going enough that it doesn't concern me to take it over. I don't want to go game total over simply because Garrett Whitlock is really good. And it is a pitcher's park. It is a warm day. So the Mariners could score off of him. And that wouldn't surprise me at all given the conditions. But he's good enough that I just want to take that out of the equation. And I want to isolate the Red Sox team total over 4.5. A pick for me in that one. 16 Eastern first pitch, Braves at the Marlins. Kyle Wright versus Eliezer Hernandez. You've heard me talk about this before. Kyle Wright's a pitcher I really like. Eliezer Hernandez is one I really don't. So I'm eyeing the Braves one way or the other here. Interestingly enough, the model says Braves minus 128, and the price I'm seeing is Braves minus 130. I'm very surprised about this. Personally, I would be comfortable laying a price like Braves minus 138. I think this should be higher. I'm not really sure what's going on with the model in this one. It's very surprising. The Braves have the better bats. They have arguably the better bullpen. For sure, they have the better bullpen if we say who has a lead and who's trying to hold it. Again, I like the Marlins bullpen, but it's more about the fact that I like the Marlins' fifth best pitcher is better than most teams' fifth best pitcher, but it's really just that depth factor. So the Braves and Marlins here either same on the bullpen or the Braves bullpen's better. And their bats are better. The starting pitcher's better. I know they're on the road, but this number seems really short to me. So I'm surprised the model only thinks minus 128. So I want to back the Braves in one way, shape, or form. Because the model just says that it shouldn't be that high of a number, I will look to team totals again. I'll go Marlins under 3.5. Again, if I was making multiple picks, I'd back the Braves somehow, maybe a run line for some plus odds, maybe a money line. Again, I don't think 138 is too bad of a price. But my official pick here, I'll go Marlins under 3.5. Odds are minus 129. My thought on this kind of boiled down to would I rather lay minus 138 for the Braves to win or minus 129 for the Marlins to score 0 through 3 runs? And I think they're probably about the same likelihood, so I'd rather just take the better odds in this team total. It's an A pick for me. Kyle Wright, for the most part, has been really good this year. He's had one bad start. This Marlins offense, as we talked about, just not quite getting it going. They have some young pieces. They have some depth, but they're not – they really need an extra big bat or two in the middle of the lineup, and then all of a sudden this lineup becomes scary. But as it is, it's just not there yet, in my opinion. We got the winner on this same pick yesterday with Charlie Morton, who, like I said, I thought was turning it around, but it was just not – I wasn't quite as confident. I'm more confident right now in Kyle Wright than I was yesterday with Charlie Morton. So under 3.5 for the Marlins, A pick for me. And again, I think looking to back the Braves either in a run line or a money line situation, also not a crazy idea. I just think this is the better angle given the odds we have this morning. 7:05 Eastern, first pitch, Rays at the Orioles. Jeffrey Springs is starting for the Rays. Looks like another bullpen game for them versus Kyle Bradish for the Orioles. A frustrating one last night. The Rays had a 3-run lead, blew that. Had a 2-run lead in extras, blew that. Just couldn't quite get it done for us there in Baltimore. And as mentioned, the Orioles are a little frisky. Not a bad team. But I think today the Rays get the better of them. Rays minus 135 is my pick. It's an A grade. The model thinks minus 150. I think there's a lot of value in this number. It's not to say that I think the Rays will come back and win because they lost yesterday. That's bad logic. And it's not to say that I think the Rays can't win today because they didn't win yesterday. That's also bad logic. This is simply a situation where I'm analyzing, the model's analyzing more appropriately. I've put all the data in, and I'm letting it crunch the numbers. The two offenses, the two bullpens, and the two starting pitchers, and I think there's value here on the Rays. And when there's this sort of value, I want to get that extra unit down. So a 3-unit play for me on the Rays, minus 135. Model says it should be minus 150. In a warm day in Baltimore, we're going to start off in the upper 80s, close in the low 80s. Slight breeze out. So otherwise, I would have said an under would be an interesting idea with these two teams, but weather-wise, it's a stay away. I think 8.5 is a pretty solid number. If it was 8, I could potentially go over given the weather. If it was 9, I could potentially go under given the teams and the pitchers. But 8.5, I think it's a pretty good number. So I'm staying away from the total, focusing my efforts on Rays to win this one. A pick for me in Baltimore. 17 Eastern, first pitch, Nationals at the Brewers. Got an easy win with the Brewers yesterday. I mentioned it was a straight-up coin toss, whether I wanted money line or run line. Run line obviously would have netted you a lot better odds. Either way, they both won. Today we've got Patrick Corbin versus Brandon Woodruff. I keep saying this Nationals offense is not good. Said it from very early on. I don't think they're going to do good things against Woodruff. Woodruff, again, has struggled a little bit this year, but his underlying metrics are encouraging. I think also facing the Nationals is, just what the doctor ordered. Patrick Corbin has had one good start this year. Otherwise, he's been very bad. Occasionally, I've isolated to ignore him because his variability, but the more I look into it, he's just mostly bad. That doesn't mean he won't have one of his good starts. He has that potential, absolutely. He's got some really good off-speed pitches, but it's a situation where I just think Woodruff is a much better pitcher than Corbin is. I think the Brewers' offense is much better than the Nationals' offense, and I think the back end of the Brewers' bullpen much better than the Nationals. I mean, huge edge here in every way, shape, or form with the Brewers, so I would not look to back the Nationals unless I was getting something crazy that you're not going to see, like a plus 250 or something. Model says Brewers minus 202. It says there's no value on either money line. I think there probably still is a little bit of value in the Brewers money line. I just don't like laying those odds. So instead, I will go run line today at minus 102. It's a B pick for me. If the model agreed, it's an A pick, but the model thinks that this number is not too far off. And so since the model thinks the number is close, it's only a B pick. But I think the model is not understanding the difference between the quality of these two starting pitchers. I think it's very large, and the model's kind of thinking it's only semi-large. And so I think there's more value here than the model realizes. So I'm going Brewers run line minus 102. B pick for me. I think they get another easy win just like they did last night. 17 Eastern first pitch, Rangers at the Astros. Got an easy under A play there in that one yesterday. As I mentioned, Martin Perez just put it together a decade after we thought he might, as he's looked fantastic this year. Had another great start last night, complete game shutout. And Javier looked pretty good for the Astros and held the Rangers bats down. So pretty much nailed that game with regards to how it would play out. Thought it would be close. Figured the Astros would get the better of the Rangers, but in those close scoring games, that's why I didn't want to touch the side, because in those type games, it's more likely anything happens. Today, a little bit of a different story with Justin Verlander on the hill. John Gray for the Rangers. Gray's a good pitcher. He's not looked as good as Perez has. And Javier's a good pitcher, but he's not as good as Verlander is tonight. And so, accordingly, the model thinks Astros should be a minus 213 favorite. Like yesterday, I'm not touching the money line. There's just not enough value. And the same thing yesterday. I do think the Astros win, but as we saw yesterday, anything can happen. And laying those huge money lines is not ideal for every situation, and this isn't one of them. A total of 7.5 indicates the odds makers think we're going to have another low-scoring game. And I tend to agree. I think game under is a solid look at 7.5. I think first 5 under is also a solid look. The first 5 under was probably my second favorite play on this one. I tend to think we're more likely to see Gray have a decent start today, and that the game under or first 5 under is a good investment. However, I'm just a little bit nervous. I've seen enough of him over the years against teams like this Astros lineup that he has the possibility of going 6 shutout, but he also has the possibility of going 5 and giving up 4. And so just because I know that is on the table, not in an anything can happen way, but in a I've seen that play out, I'm going to isolate the Rangers team total under. It's a really low number with Verlander on the hill, so it's under 2.5. That's why it's only a B pick for me. That third run is very concerning. So if you're able to get under 3, even, 3.0, right? And you're laying maybe a minus 115, minus 120, that's an A pick for me. All right, so if you have that option, you could go under 3.5. Some of you will have that option. You'll have to lay a ton of juice for a number like under 3.5, so it's probably not worth it. I'm eyeing under 2.5 at plus 107, so it's a B pick for me at that number. I think Verlander shuts the Rangers down. It's hard to give that third unit to an under 2.5 team total. But again, as I've said, the Rangers don't tend to score unless it's on weaker pitchers. Verlander definitely not that. So I see the Rangers having a hard time to score. So it's something I want to be invested in on this Rangers team total under. It's just at 2.5. Thankfully, we have plus odds, but it's only a 2-unit play. For that third unit, I want to be under 3 to get that push protection in case the Rangers do eke out that third run, as they did last night. 17 Eastern first pitch, Twins at the Royals. Joe Ryan, our boy Joe Ryan there versus Brad Keller. A chilly night in Kansas City, mid-50s. Winds will be blowing across, maybe a little bit in from left at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Great pitcher's weather here. Model says Twins minus 140. I think you can back the Twins minus 141. I think that makes a lot of sense. Y'all know I love me some Joe Ryan. I don't think Brad Keller's very good. Twins offense better than the Royals offense. Twins bullpen better than the Royals bullpen. Twins have a lot of advantages in this game, in every facet of the game. I think the model says Twins minus 140. I think personally, the number should be more like minus 150. So I'm very comfortable with playing Twins minus 141. I probably would stay away from run line just because the weather makes it where it's unlikely the Twins get to 5 runs or 6 runs or something like that. And not to say that they have to have that to win by more than one, because they could win 2-0. But I just feel much better about my run line chances when I'm like, oh, they could easily score 5 or 6. With this weather, it's going to be really hard to get to that number. Not impossible, but just difficult. So I'd probably stay away from the run line. I like Twins money line. Minus 141, I think, is pretty good value. Instead, I'm going to go to another team total today. Isolate the Royals under 3.5. It's minus 111. This is an absolute steal. A pick for me. The weather lines up. Joe Ryan has been fantastic. The Royals offense is awful. This might be my favorite play of the day right here. I don't see how the Royals get to 4 runs. Don't overthink this one. Take the Royals team total under 3.5. Great odds, -111. A pick for me. Absolutely love that one. That takes us to extra innings. A few leans here for us. Padres and Giants will be a 4:05 Eastern first pitch. Joe Musgrove versus Carlos Rodon. Yesterday, I made the comment that ball seems to be flying out of San Francisco. I don't know if they got solely the batch of old baseballs that fly out. I don't know what's happening there. We continue to see it. We saw it again yesterday. I'm going to steer right into that skid, and I'm going to go Giants team total over 3.5. with a C pick. I don't want to go full game over because I don't want to fade Carlos Rodon in any way, shape, or form. Right now, I have him as clearly the best healthy pitcher in baseball, clearly the second best pitcher overall in baseball behind DeGrom. Obviously, we know he's fantastic. I'd hope to see him soon because he's a lot of fun to watch. Rodon is so good. I don't want to go full game over because I don't want to be needing the Padres to score off of him. Model thinks there's an edge on the Padres and thinks +142 is good value. But again, I just don't want to fade Carlos Rodon. If you want to, great, go for it. I just think he's really good. So I'll go Giants team total over 3.5. Only a C pick because I like Joe Musgrove. But I mean, if the ball's flying out at that park, I'm just going to roll with it. So that's my lean on that game. 6:05 Eastern first pitch. Dodgers at the Phillies. Mitch White versus Aaron Nola. Nola's been looking fantastic. I was looking for a way to back him. But then I saw the price come out with the way that Bryce Harper, that offense looks without Bryce Harper. Again, he still seems kind of 50-50 to me. Maybe someone else knows a little bit more that it's higher or lower, but it feels like it's 50-50. I'm not hearing anything definitive. It seems like every day is that maybe he'll play, and he hasn't yet. So until I know otherwise, I'm just going to kind of assume he's still out. And as much as I want to back Nola, with Harper out, it's really hard to with how bad that offense has looked. Weather-wise, we're going to be mid-90s to start this game. Hot in Philadelphia. Even closing the game will be in the mid-80s. Wind blowing out at 5 to 10 miles an hour. So as much as I want to go under because I'm thinking no Harper, this Phillies offense is bad. Aaron Nola, great, let's go under. This weather is massive hitting weather. So I can't do that. And I can't go over because, like I said, I would not want to go over in a situation where this Phillies offense looks lost without Harper. Now, if Harper's playing, it's a different story. Over looks a little bit more enticing. I definitely like backing the Phillies. Obviously, that number's going to jump a little bit. But as it is, I'm going to lean with the Dodgers. It's +112. I think this is a pretty toss-up game. So just a lean for me on the Dodgers. But assuming that Harper is still out, I think the Dodgers at plus odds offers a little bit of value. 6:10 Eastern first pitch, Tigers to the Guardians. Probably a late start here given the weather situation and need to let that clear through. Alex Fado versus Shane Bieber. I'll take Guardians on the run line at plus odds. Again, only a lean, just a C pick for me there. The model thinks there's a little bit of value in the Guardians. I'll trust the model, but I don't want to lay that big number. Bieber is a pitcher who every time I zig, he zags. So it's one that I'm not extremely confident in. But again, the model thinks value on the Guardians. So I'll back it, but I'll do it with the run line rather than the money line. 6:30 Eastern first pitch, Cardinals to the Pirates. Matthew Liberatore versus Jose Quintana. A game I really don't know what to make of because I love the way Jose Quintana has looked, and I really would like to back him. But the Pirates just aren't good, and I don't think the price is high enough to offer value because as much as I want to back Quintana, there are other factors involved, given that the Cardinals are better than the Pirates in every other facet of the game. It's a warm day to start in Pittsburgh, 90 degrees. We're going to close in the upper 70s, so the extra boost to the bats there heat-wise will diminish as the game moves along, unlike in Philadelphia where it won't. Winds will be blowing a little bit in to start off as well, about 10 miles an hour. So I'm hoping that the wind blowing in to start off kind of offsets the heat a little bit. I'm hoping that Quintana can continue what he's doing. Pirates offense isn't good. I'm going to go under 8.5 as a C pick. Not one I love there, but I think it's probably the best way to look. With the number I'm seeing on the sides, I don't really want to be invested in the Cardinals against Quintana having to lay a price, and I don't really want to be invested in the Pirates, period, unless I'm getting a number better than what I'm seeing right now. Then a few games that either don't have lines or I'm waiting on. White Sox the Yankees will be a 105 Eastern first pitch. It's the repeat of the game we talked about yesterday with Keuchel and Cortez. I don't really have anything other to say other than today. We've got 90-degree weather by the end of the game, low 90s, winds blowing out to left. Runs would be aplenty. I like Cortez. I think he's been great. I don't really like Keuchel. He's done okay. I want to look a little bit more into this one at some of the team total markets. My first thought is Yankees team total over against Keuchel, but my only hesitation here is that wind blowing out, hot day, balls flying, Keuchel's an extreme ground ball pitcher. And so it's a situation where the reason that the weather gets a boost and the reason the Yankees offense gets a boost don't correlate with each other. There's no synergistic effect there. And so that makes me a little bit concerned on that one. So I just want to dive a little bit deeper into that one. I will post a pick on Twitter later. 8:40 Eastern, first pitch. We'd have game 2 of the Mets at Rockies. Right now there's no line. Trevor Williams versus Austin Gomber is who is being projected. Still will be very chilly, so still will be pitching weather if that is the actual pitching matchup. I'd have the Mets as a slight favorite in a coin toss game there. But we'll see if those other pitchers and what the number is, and I'll tweet out about that one. And the last one, late one, 9:07 Eastern first pitch, Athletics at the Angels, Montas versus Lorenzen. Model says Angels minus 153, which would offer tremendous value on the Angels at minus 136. I'm just a little bit nervous because every time I tend to back the Angels, it seems like they decide to rest half their offense. But in general, the model likes the Angels' edge. So I kind of just want to see a lineup on this one before I get too invested in the Angels, because facing a guy like Montas, if the Angels rest Ward and or Trout, which they have randomly done, it seems like, when I've least expected it, then it creates a very different situation because Montas should be able to shut out the rest of the Angels' bats pretty handily. Those two guys can change the way that offense looks. So just want to wait and see a lineup on that one before I invest in the Angels. Right now, the model says there's a huge Angels edge. So it'd be the way I'd be looking for now. Picks, a lot of things I like today. I've got the Reds at Blue Jays first 5 under 4.5. I'm taking the Rockies first 5 at plus 105. I'm taking the Red Sox team total over 4.5. Taking the Marlins team total under 3.5. Taking the Rays minus 135. And I'm taking the Royals team total under 3.5. And that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Picks with the Professor. A reminder, check out the Google Sheet for model picks, projections, and results. You can find that link at the website, www.pickswiththeprofessor.com. If you haven't done so yet, please click that subscribe button to ensure all the sports betting content we provide on this channel is dropped right into your feed. I will see you Monday. I will post the model output tomorrow. I might make a few picks as well. My baseball game is slated for the afternoon, so I'll have a little bit of morning time. So I might make some picks. If I do, I will tweet about that. It'll also be in the Google Sheet. Best of luck this weekend. And until next week, remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.